The stars looked cold from the observation deck of the Aegis. Lieutenant Tiho Park stood there alone, watching the endless darkness of space stretch before him. He was a tall man with short black hair and tired eyes. 3 years in space had made him lean and sharp, like a blade that had been used too many times. His communicator buzzed. A message from command appeared on the small screen. Lieutenant Park, Priority Alpha, deliver encrypted data to Princess Valera of the Itheran Syndicate. Location, Royal Cruiser Starfall Throne, time sensitive, do not fail. Tiho read the message twice. The Itheran Syndicate was one of the most powerful alien federations in the known galaxy. They controlled hundreds of star systems and commanded fleets that could destroy entire planets, and they did not like humans. To the Syndicate, humans were newcomers, children playing in the Garden of the Gods. Earth had only discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. The Itherans had been sailing the stars for 10,000 years. They tolerated humanity the way a giant might tolerate an ant walking near its foot. And now Tiho had to deliver a message to their princess. He took a small shuttle and flew toward the coordinates. The Starfall throne appeared on his sensors after 2 hours of travel. It was massive. The royal cruiser was larger than any human space station. Its hull was made of something that shimmered like liquid silver, and strange symbols glowed along its surface. Towers rose from the ship like the spires of an ancient castle. Tiho tried to open a communication channel. Nothing. He tried again. Static. "This is Lieutenant Park of the Earth vessel Aegis," he said into the communicator. "Requesting permission to dock. I carry urgent information for Princess Valera." No response. Something was wrong. The Itharans were famous for their perfect communication systems. Their technology was centuries ahead of anything humans had built. A jammed signal meant trouble. Tiho brought his shuttle closer. He scanned the cruiser and found something that made his blood run cold. There were energy signatures inside the ship, weapons fire. Someone was fighting aboard the Starfall throne. He had 2 choices. He could turn around and report what he had seen. That was the safe choice, the smart choice. Or he could go in and find out what was happening. Tiho thought about the message from command. Time sensitive, do not fail. He guided his shuttle toward a maintenance hatch on the lower section of the cruiser. The Itherans had not designed their security systems to stop humans. They had never needed to. No human had ever been foolish enough to try breaking into a royal ship. Tiho was about to be the first. He connected his shuttle to the hatch and pulled out a small device from his bag. It was old Earth technology, something his grandfather had given him. A simple hacking tool that worked on basic electromagnetic locks. The Itherans used quantum encryption, light-based security, and barriers that could read the thoughts of intruders. But the maintenance hatch was different. It was meant for service robots, not royal guests. Its security was simple. Tiho worked quickly. His fingers moved across the device, adjusting frequencies and sending signals. Sweat dripped down his forehead. If he triggered an alarm, he would be dead in seconds. The Itheran defense systems could vaporize a human body before he could blink. The hatch clicked open. Tiho let out a long breath. He grabbed his sidearm and stepped into the ship. The inside of the Starfall throne was beautiful and terrifying. The corridors were wide and tall, built for beings much larger than humans. The walls were made of something that looked like white marble, but it glowed with soft inner light. Strange plants grew in alcoves, their leaves shimmering with colors that did not exist on Earth. And there were bodies. Tiho counted 5 Itheran guards lying on the floor. They were not dead, but they were not moving either. Their eyes were open, frozen in expressions of surprise. Some kind of paralysis weapon had hit them. He moved faster now. The map in his head was based on old intelligence reports, but it was enough to guide him toward the royal quarters. He could hear sounds in the distance. Footsteps, voices speaking in the Itheran language. They sounded urgent. Tiho reached a massive door. It was sealed with the royal seal, a lock that was supposed to be impossible to break. Only members of the royal family could open it. He looked at the door, then he looked at his old Earth hacking device. "Worth a try," he muttered. It took him 3 minutes. 3 minutes of adjusting frequencies, sending false signals, and praying to every god he had ever heard of. The lock was not quantum. It was not light-based. It was biological, designed to read Etherian DNA. But every biological system had a weakness. It needed power, and power could be interrupted. Tiho found the power conduit behind a panel in the wall. He crossed 2 wires. The door flickered. And then it opened. The room beyond was the most beautiful place Tiho had ever seen. Crystal chandeliers hung from a ceiling that seemed to stretch into infinity. Furniture made of materials he could not name filled the space. A great window showed the stars outside, and standing before that window was a figure that made Tiho stop breathing. Princess Velira of the Etherian Syndicate was tall and graceful. Her skin was pale like moonlight, and her hair flowed down her back like a river of dark blue water. Her eyes were silver, and they glowed with inner light. She wore a gown that seemed to be made of starlight itself. She turned when the door opened. Her shock was obvious. Her silver eyes went wide. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. For a long moment, she simply stared at the human standing in her private sanctuary. No being had entered this room without permission in 10,000 years. The royal seal was supposed to be unbreakable, and yet here stood a human, a member of the primitive species that the Syndicate barely tolerated. "Human," Velira finally whispered. Her voice was like music, but it trembled with fury and disbelief. "You should be dead. The defenses should have killed you 100 times. How are you standing here?" Tiho did not have time to explain. He could hear more footsteps behind him, growing closer. The assassins were coming. "Your Highness," he said, keeping his voice calm and steady. "My name is Lieutenant Tiho Park of Earth. I came to deliver a message, but I found something else. Your guards are down. There are enemies on this ship. Assassins, I think. They are coming this way right now." Velira's expression changed. The shock was replaced by something harder. Fear, perhaps, but controlled. She was royalty. She had been trained for danger. "The Voidsworn," she said. "My elite guards. If they have fallen, then the enemy has used forbidden weapons." "They are not dead," Tiho said. "Just paralyzed, but we need to move. Now I can get you off this ship." Velira looked at him with those strange silver eyes. Tiho could not read her expression. He did not know if she would trust him or call for more guards to kill him. "Why should I trust you, human?" she asked. "Perhaps you are part of this plot. Perhaps you are here to finish what others started." Tiho heard the footsteps getting closer. He heard voices shouting orders in Etherian. Time was running out. "If I wanted you dead," he said simply, "I would not have warned you. I would have just shot you when you turned around. Please, Your Highness, we need to go now." For a long moment, Velira did not move. Then she nodded once. "Very well, human, I will trust you. But if you betray me, I will make sure your entire species pays the price." Tiho almost smiled. "Fair enough. Now please follow me and stay close." He turned and ran back into the corridor. Behind him, the princess of the Etherian Syndicate followed a human for the first time in her very long life. The hunt had begun. The corridors of the Starfall throne seemed endless. Tiho ran through them with Princess Velira close behind him. The ship was like a maze, and every turn looked the same. White walls that glowed with soft light, strange plants in crystal containers, and more fallen guards lying frozen on the floor. Velira moved with surprising speed. Her long gown flowed behind her like water, but it did not slow her down. She was graceful even in danger. Thousands of years of royal training had prepared her for moments like this. But nothing had prepared her for what she was about to see. They turned a corner and found 3 figures waiting for them. They were Itherans, but they wore black masks that covered their faces. In their hands, they held weapons that hummed with deadly energy. "There she is," one of them said. "Kill the human, take the princess alive." Tiho did not hesitate. He raised his sidearm and fired 3 times. The old earth weapon made a loud sound that echoed through the corridor. 2 of the assassins fell immediately. The third managed to fire back. The plasma bolt hit Tiho in the shoulder. Pain exploded through his body. He had been shot before, but plasma weapons were different. They burned as well as pierced. He could smell his own flesh cooking. His vision went white for a moment. But he did not fall. Tiho gritted his teeth and fired again. The third assassin dropped to the floor. Valera stared at him with wide eyes. She had never seen anything like this. The plasma bolt should have knocked the human unconscious. The pain alone should have made him unable to move. Itherans were strong, much stronger than humans, and even they would need time to recover from such a wound. But the human was still standing. He was pale and sweating. Blood mixed with burned tissue dripped down his arm, and yet he was reaching for his uniform, tearing a strip of cloth from his sleeve, wrapping it around the wound. "How?" Valera demanded. Her voice was barely a whisper. "How are you still moving? Your pain receptors should have overwhelmed your nervous system. You should be screaming on the floor." Tiho finished tying the bandage. It was crude and ugly, but it would slow the bleeding. "Adrenaline," he said simply. "It is something humans have. When we are in danger, our bodies release chemicals that let us ignore pain, at least for a while." "That is impossible," Valera said. "No species can simply ignore pain. Pain exists to protect the body. To ignore it is to invite death." Tiho started walking again, slower this time but still moving forward. "Humans are good at ignoring death," he said, "especially when someone else's life depends on it. Now please, Your Highness, we need to keep moving. There will be more of them." Valera followed him, but she could not stop looking at his wounded shoulder. The bandage was already turning red. The human was losing blood. He would die soon if he did not receive proper medical care. And yet he kept walking. They encountered more assassins as they moved deeper into the ship. Tiho killed them with brutal efficiency. He was not fast like the Itherans, not graceful like their elite warriors, but he was relentless. He took hits that should have stopped him and kept fighting. He used tricks that the assassins did not expect. He threw things at their faces to blind them. He kicked their legs out from under them. He fought dirty, without honor, without rules. And he won. Valera had studied humans in her youth. She had read reports about their primitive planet, their short lives, their fragile bodies. The reports said that humans were weak, emotional, and prone to violence. They were useful as workers and servants, but they were not warriors. They were not threats. The reports were wrong. After what felt like hours, they reached a sealed hangar bay. The door was massive, made of metal that Tiho did not recognize. A control panel glowed beside it, displaying symbols in the Itheran language. "This is the emergency hangar," Valera said. "There are ships inside, small ones but fast enough to reach safety. But the door requires 2 things to open: royal biometrics and a cipher key." "Can you provide the biometrics?" Tiho asked. Valera pressed her hand against the panel. It glowed blue and accepted her signature. "Yes, but the cipher key is held only by the High Council. I do not have it. No one on this ship has it except—" She stopped, her face went pale. "Except the traitors," she finished. "They must have stolen it. That is how they got past the Voidsworn. That is how they knew exactly where to strike." Tiho looked at the door. It was thick and strong. He could not break it. He could not blast through it. And he did not have the cipher key. But he had something else. He pulled out his hacking device again, the old tool that had opened the maintenance hatch, the simple machine that his grandfather had given him decades ago. Valera saw it and shook her head. "That technology is obsolete," she said. Her voice was not cruel, just honest. It cannot interface with Itharian systems. Our encryption is light years beyond anything your species has developed. You would need a quantum computer to even begin breaking through our security. Tiho did not answer. He opened a panel near the door and studied the wires inside. They were not like Earth wires. They glowed with strange colors and hummed with energy he could not understand. But energy was energy, and every system had a weakness. He worked in silence. His fingers moved carefully, connecting his device to different points, testing signals, listening for responses. The pain in his shoulder was screaming at him now. The adrenaline was fatting. He could feel his strength dripping away with every drop of blood. 60 seconds passed. Valera stood behind him, watching. She did not believe he could do it. No Itharian would believe it. The door was protected by technology that had been perfected over millennia. And then the door hissed open. Valera stared. Her silver eyes went wide. Her mouth opened and closed without words. "Impossible," she finally said. "That is completely impossible. How did you do that?" Tiho put his device back in his pocket. He was swaying now, barely able to stay on his feet. "Humans built our first spacecraft with less computing power than your jewelry," he said. His voice was tired, but there was a hint of pride in it. "We put men on our moon using machines that could barely add numbers. We crossed our oceans on wooden ships when we did not even know what was on the other side. We are creative, Your Highness. We solve problems because we have no other choice." The hangar bay beyond the door was filled with small ships. They were elegant, designed for speed rather than combat, perfect for escape. Tiho pointed to the nearest one. "Can you fly that?" he asked. Valera shook her head. "I am royalty. I have never needed to fly anything myself." "Then I will fly," Tiho said. He walked toward the ship, each step heavier than the last. "Get inside. We are leaving this place." Valera hesitated. She looked back at the corridor behind them. Somewhere in the ship, her enemies were still hunting. Her guards were still frozen. Her world was falling apart. And her only hope was a bleeding human who should have died an hour ago. She made her decision. She followed Tiho into the ship. The controls were strange, but Tiho had studied Itharian vessels during his training. He figured out the basics quickly. The engine hummed to life. The ship lifted off the floor. Behind them, assassins burst into the hangar. They fired their weapons, but it was too late. The ship shot through the hangar doors and into the darkness of space. Tiho set a course for the nearest neutral station, a place called Horizon's Edge, where the Syndicate's enemies could not follow. Then he slumped back in his chair. The adrenaline was gone now. The pain was everywhere. His vision was going gray at the edges. "Human," Valera said. Her voice sounded far away. "Human, stay awake. You are losing too much blood." Tiho tried to answer, but his words came out as a whisper. "Just need to rest for a moment." Valera moved quickly. She found the medical supplies on the ship and did her best to treat his wound. It was crude work. She had never treated injuries herself. Servants and doctors had always done such things for her. But she learned she had no choice. As she worked, she looked at the human's face. It was pale and covered in sweat. His breathing was shallow. He looked fragile, like he could break at any moment. And yet this fragile creature had done the impossible. He had broken into her ship, fought through her enemies, opened doors that should never open, and saved her life. Valera did not understand humans. She was beginning to think that no one did. "Why?" she asked softly, even though she knew he could not hear her. "Why did you risk your life for me? You owe me nothing. Our species barely tolerate each other. You could have left me to die and no one would have blamed you." There was no answer. The human was unconscious, lost in a sleep that might become death. But Valera remembered what he had said earlier. Humans are good at ignoring death when someone else's life depends on it. She looked out the window at the stars rushing past. Perhaps she had underestimated his kind. Perhaps everyone had. Tiho woke to the sound of alarms. His eyes opened slowly. Everything was blurry at first. Then the world came into focus. He was lying in the pilot's chair of the stolen Itharan ship. His shoulder burned with pain, but it was wrapped in clean bandages. Someone had treated his wound while he slept. The alarm screamed again. Tiho sat up, ignoring the wave of dizziness that washed over him. The ship's screens showed a problem, a big problem. 3 vessels were approaching. They were not Itharan ships. They were older, uglier, covered in weapons. Raider ships, pirates who attacked travelers in the space between systems. Princess Velira stood near the window, her silver eyes fixed on the approaching enemies. "They appeared 20 minutes ago," she said. Her voice was calm, but Tiho could hear the tension beneath it. "They have been sending messages, demanding that we surrender." Tiho checked the ship systems. Weapons, none. Shields, minimal. Speed, not enough to outrun the raiders. "What do they want?" he asked. "Me," Velira said simply. "Word must have spread about the attack on the Starfall throne. They know a princess is fleeing. They want to capture me and sell me to the highest bidder, or perhaps hold me for ransom." Tiho looked at the navigation charts. They were still hours away from Horizon's edge. The raiders would catch them long before they reached safety. "We cannot fight them," Velira continued. "This ship has no weapons and we cannot run. Their vessels are faster." "What do you suggest we do?" Tiho asked. Velira was quiet for a moment, then she spoke. "Perhaps I should surrender. If they capture me, they will let you go. You are just a human. You have no value to them." Tiho laughed. It hurt his shoulder, but he could not help it. "I did not break into a royal ship, fight through assassins, and lose half my blood just to abandon you to pirates," he said. "We will find another way." He studied the navigation charts more carefully. There was something nearby, a dense asteroid field filled with rocks the size of mountains. Most pilots avoided such places. The debris was too thick, the paths too dangerous. "Most pilots—" "Your Highness," Tiho said slowly, "I need you to sit down and hold on to something. This is going to be rough." Velira looked at him with confusion. "What are you planning?" Tiho did not answer. He cut the ship's engines. The vessel went dark and began to drift. On the screens, he could see the asteroid field growing closer. Massive rocks tumbled through space, crashing into each other, breaking apart and reforming. "You cannot be serious," Velira said. Her voice rose with alarm. "That field is death. No one flies through it. The gravity shifts alone would tear us apart." "The gravity shifts would tear apart someone flying normally," Tiho said. "We are not going to fly normally." He reached for the manual controls. Most ships were flown by computers. Automatic systems calculated paths and avoided obstacles. But Tiho had learned to fly the old way, back on Earth, in atmosphere, where computers could fail and only human reflexes could save you. The raiders were getting closer. Their weapons locked onto the small ship. A voice crackled through the communication system. "Unknown vessel, this is your final warning. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded. If you resist, we will destroy you." Tiho turned off the communication system. Then he pushed the engines to full power. The ship shot forward like a bullet. It dove into the asteroid field at a speed that should have been impossible. Rocks the size of buildings rushed past the windows. Tiho's hands moved across the controls, making adjustments faster than he could think. He was not flying with his mind anymore. He was flying with his body, with instincts that had been trained over years of practice. The ship spun. It rolled. It dove and climbed and twisted through gaps that seemed too small to fit through. The forces pushed Tiho back into his seat. He could feel his vision going gray at the edges. The G-forces were trying to knock him unconscious. But he had been trained for this too. Back on Earth, pilots learned to handle forces that would kill most species. They learned to breathe in special ways, to tense their muscles, to keep blood flowing to their brains even when physics said it should not be possible. Behind them, the raiders tried to follow. One of them crashed into an asteroid within seconds. The explosion lit up the darkness. The other two slowed down, trying to navigate more carefully. But Tiho did not slow down. He pushed harder, faster, deeper into the field. Valera gripped her seat with both hands. Her face was pale, even paler than usual. She had seen many things in her long life, but she had never experienced anything like this. The ship was shaking so hard that her teeth rattled. The stars outside were spinning so fast that she could not tell up from down. And through it all, the human kept flying. His face was covered in sweat. Blood was seeping through his bandages again, but his hands were steady on the controls. "How?" Valera gasped. "How can you do this?" "Humans evolved on a death world," Tiho said through gritted teeth. "Everything on our planet tried to kill us. The weather, the animals, even our own sun. We learned to survive in conditions that would destroy other species. Our bodies can take punishment that should not be possible." Another raider crashed, then another. They were not following anymore. The field was too dangerous. No sane pilot would continue. Tiho kept going for another 10 minutes. Then, finally, they emerged on the other side of the asteroid field. The stars were calm again. The rocks were behind them. Tiho let go of the controls. His hands were shaking. His entire body was shaking. He slumped back in his chair and closed his eyes. Valera unbuckled her safety straps and moved toward him. He looked terrible. His wound had reopened. His skin was gray. He was barely conscious. "You saved us," she said softly, "again." Tiho opened his eyes, just enough to look at her. "Just doing my job," he whispered. Valera felt something strange in her chest, an emotion she could not name. For thousands of years she had lived among the Itherans. They were a proud people, a powerful people. They measured worth in strength and intelligence and political skill. But this human had shown her something different. He had shown her determination, stubbornness, a refusal to give up even when all hope was lost. "Why?" she asked, the same question she had asked before. "Why do you risk so much for me? I am not your princess. Your people and my people are barely allies. If you died saving me, no one on earth would thank you." Tiho was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was tired but sincere. "Because someone had to," he said. "And I was there. That is what humans do. We see someone who needs help and we help them, even if it costs us everything. Even if no one ever knows, it is just who we are." Valera sat down beside him. The ship flew on through the darkness of space, carrying them toward safety. "Tell me about your world," she said. "Tell me about Earth." Tiho smiled weakly. "It is a beautiful place," he said, "and a terrible place. We have oceans that cover most of the surface and mountains that touch the clouds. We have forests so thick that sunlight cannot reach the ground and deserts so hot that nothing can live there. We have storms that destroy cities and earthquakes that swallow towns." "It sounds like a nightmare," Valera said. "Sometimes it is," Tiho agreed. "But it is our nightmare, and it made us strong. Every generation of humans had to fight to survive, against the planet, against the animals, against each other. We learned to never give up, to always find a way." He paused, gathering his strength. "Your people have had peace for 10,000 years," he continued. "You have built an empire that stretches across the stars. You have power that humans cannot imagine, but you have forgotten what it means to struggle, to fight for survival when the odds are impossible." Valera considered his words. She wanted to argue to defend her people's honor, but she could not. Deep down, she knew he was right. "We almost went extinct once," Tiho said. "A disease swept across our planet and killed most of our population. People thought it was the end, but some of us survived. We rebuilt. We grew stronger. And when the next disaster came, we were ready." The ship's computer beeped. They were approaching Horizon's edge. Safety was close now. Valera looked at the human beside her. He had risked everything for someone he did not know. He had fought through pain that should have killed him. He had flown through death itself without hesitation. And he had done it simply because someone needed help. "Thank you, Tiho," she said. It was the first time she had used his name. He looked at her with surprise, then he smiled. "You are welcome, Your Highness." The station appeared on the screens. Horizon's Edge, a neutral place where enemies became guests and old rules did not apply. They had survived, but Valera knew that their journey was far from over. Somewhere out there, the traitors were still plotting, the conspiracy was still growing, and the future of her people hung in the balance. But for the first time in a long time, she did not feel alone. Horizon's Edge was a city floating in the darkness of space. It had been built centuries ago by smugglers and merchants who wanted a place to trade without laws. Over time, it had grown into something bigger, a station where any species could walk freely, where old enemies shared drinks and new alliances were born in shadowy corners. Tiho had been here before many years ago. The station had not changed. It was still loud, crowded, and slightly dangerous. Neon signs glowed in 100 different languages. Aliens of every shape and size walked through the narrow streets. The air smelled of strange foods and stranger chemicals. Princess Valera pulled a hood over her head to hide her face. If anyone recognized her, they would try to capture her, or kill her, or sell information about her location to her enemies. "Stay close to me," Tiho said. His shoulder was wrapped in fresh bandages. A medical droid on the station had treated his wound properly. He was still weak, but he could walk without falling over. They moved through the crowds until they reached a small building near the edge of the station. It looked like a shop, but there was no sign on the door. Tiho knocked 3 times, paused, then knocked twice more. The door opened. A woman stood in the doorway. She was human, young and sharp-eyed, with short black hair and a scar on her cheek. She looked at Tiho, and her expression changed from suspicion to surprise. "Tiho," she said, "I thought you were dead." "Not yet," Tiho replied. "Can we come in, Minji? We need help." The woman, Minji Quan, stepped aside to let them enter. The building was not a shop at all. It was filled with screens and computers and strange machines. Minji was an information broker. She bought and sold secrets for a living. If anyone knew what was happening in the galaxy, it was her. When Valera lowered her hood, Minji's eyes went wide. "Is that who I think it is?" Minji asked quietly. "Princess Valera of the Itheran Syndicate," Tiho confirmed. "She was nearly assassinated. I got her out, but we need to know who is behind this." Minji sat down at her computer and began typing. Her fingers moved faster than Tiho could follow. "I have been hearing rumors," she said as she worked. "Strange things happening in the Syndicate, important people dying in accidents, ships disappearing, communication networks going down. Someone has been planning this for a long time." Valera stepped forward. Her silver eyes were intense. "Who?" she demanded. "Who is responsible?" Minji pulled up a series of documents on her screen. Names, dates, financial records, the evidence of a conspiracy that stretched across the stars. "It is not one person," Minji said. "It is a group, high-ranking members of the Itheran Council. They have been working together in secret for years, and they have one goal." She turned the screen toward Valera. "They want to start a war with humanity." Valera felt the world spin around her. Her own people, the leaders she had trusted. They had tried to kill her so that they could attack Earth. "Why?" she whispered. "Humans are no threat to us. Your technology is primitive. Your fleets are small. There is no reason to fear you." Minji shook her head. "It is not about fear, Your Highness. It is about power. Some factions in your government believe that humanity is growing too fast. In 50 years, we went from our first space flight to having colonies on 12 worlds. In another 100 years, we might rival your empire. The conspirators want to crush us before we become equals. Tiho listened in silence. He had known that some Itherans looked down on humans, but he had not known that they were planning genocide. If they kill me, Valera said slowly, they can blame my death on human agents. They can use it as an excuse to attack Earth. Billions would die. That is the plan, Minji confirmed. You were supposed to be a sacrifice, a princess murdered by savage humans, the perfect reason for war. Valera sat down heavily. Her hands were shaking. Everything she had believed in, everything she had trusted, was crumbling around her. I have served the Syndicate my entire life, she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. I believed that our leaders were wise, that they acted for the good of all. How could I have been so blind? Tiho moved to sit beside her. He did not know what to say. What could he say? Her own people had betrayed her in the worst possible way. This is not your fault, he said finally. You trusted the wrong people. It happens. What matters now is what you do next. Valera looked at him. Her silver eyes were filled with pain. Among my people, trust is transactional, she said. We form alliances based on benefit. We support those who can help us. Betrayal is expected. It is part of the game, but this is different. This is not just politics. They tried to kill me. They tried to start a war that would destroy billions of innocent lives. She paused. And you saved me, a human I had never met. You risked your life for no reward. You expected nothing in return. I do not understand it. Tiho thought for a moment. Humans are complicated, he said. We can be cruel, selfish, destructive. Our history is full of wars and suffering, but we can also be brave, compassionate. We choose who we want to be every single day. I chose to help you because it was the right thing to do. Valera studied his face. He was not lying. She could see that clearly. This human truly believed what he was saying. It was the strangest thing she had ever encountered. Minji's computer beeped. Her face went pale. We have a problem, she said. Someone tracked your ship. Assassins are on the station. They will be here in minutes. Tiho stood up immediately. The pain in his shoulder screamed at him, but he ignored it. How many? He asked. 6, maybe more. They are elite killers, Tiho. Not like the ones on the ship. These are professionals. Tiho checked his weapon. It was low on power. He would have maybe 10 shots before it was useless. Is there another way out? He asked. There is a back exit, Minji said. But it leads into the lower levels, dangerous territory, even for me. We will take it, Tiho decided. Minji, get the information out. Tell everyone what is happening. If the truth spreads, the conspirators lose their advantage. Minji nodded. I can do that, but what about you? We will survive, Tiho said. We always do. They moved toward the back exit, but they were not fast enough. The front door exploded inward. 6 figures in black armor rushed into the room. Their weapons were already firing. Tiho pushed Valera behind a computer console and returned fire. His shots were accurate, but the assassins were fast. Too fast. They moved like shadows, appearing and disappearing before he could track them. One of them got close. Tiho fought hand to hand. The assassin was stronger, faster, better trained. But Tiho fought dirty. He bit, scratched, and kicked. He used everything around him as a weapon. He refused to fall. The assassin stabbed him in the side. The blade went deep. Tiho gasped, but he did not stop. He grabbed the assassin's arm and broke it. Then he used the assassin's own weapon to kill 2 more. But there were too many. His body was giving up. Blood poured from his wounds. His vision was going dark. In his final moment of consciousness, he saw Valera watching him. Her silver eyes were wide with horror and something else, something like grief. Run, he whispered, then he collapsed. Valera caught him before he hit the ground. She did not know why. Instinct, perhaps, or something deeper. Minji fired a hidden weapon, taking down another assassin. The remaining 2 retreated, calling for backup. We need to move, Minji shouted. They will return with more. He is dying, Valera said, her voice cracked. He needs medical care, real medical care, the kind only my people can provide. Minji looked at the princess. Then she looked at the dying human on the floor. If you take him to Ithara, you will be walking into your enemy's hands, she said. I know, Valera replied. They will try to kill you again. I know. Minji was silent for a moment. Why, she asked, why risk everything for him? Valera looked down at Tiho's pale face. He had asked her the same question, and now she finally understood the answer. Because someone has to, she said, and I am here. She lifted the unconscious human in her arms. He was heavy, but she was stronger than she looked. Help me contact the Loyalist fleet, she said to Minji. Tell them their princess commands them. Tell them I have proof of the conspiracy, and tell them I am bringing a human hero who deserves to live. Minji smiled for the first time. You know, she said, he would probably tell you not to bother, that he is no hero. Then he would be wrong, Valera replied. She carried Tiho toward the exit. Behind them, the conspirators' plans were already crumbling. The truth was spreading across the galaxy, and a princess who had never trusted anyone was risking her throne for a man she had known for less than a day. Perhaps, she thought, this is what humans call faith. The Loyalist fleet arrived at Horizon's Edge 6 hours after Valera's message went out. 12 warships surrounded the station, their weapons pointed at anyone who might threaten the princess. The conspirators' assassins fled into the shadows. They had failed. The truth was spreading across the galaxy, and their plans were falling apart. Valera stood at the docking bay, watching as medical teams rushed toward her. Tiho was on a stretcher, barely alive. His face was gray. His breathing was shallow. The doctors spoke in rapid Itheran, using words that Valera barely understood. Will he survive? She asked. The lead doctor looked at her with uncertainty. He has lost too much blood, the doctor said. His wounds are severe. If he were Itheran, I would say there is no hope. But humans are strange creatures. Their bodies fight death in ways we do not understand. We will do everything we can. They took Tiho away. Valera watched until he disappeared into the medical ship. Then she turned to face her duties. The journey to Ithara took 3 days. During that time, Valera worked constantly. She gathered evidence against the conspirators. She spoke with Loyalist council members. She prepared her case against those who had tried to kill her and start a war. But every few hours, she visited the medical bay. She sat beside Tiho's bed and watched him sleep. The machines around him beeped and hummed, keeping him alive by technology that his species had not yet invented. He looked so fragile, so small, and yet he had done the impossible. On the second day, he opened his eyes. "Where am I?" he whispered. His voice was rough, like he had not used it in a long time. "You are safe," Valera said. "On an Itheran medical ship, we are traveling to my homeworld." Tiho tried to sit up. Pain flashed across his face. "Easy," Valera said. "You almost died, multiple times. The doctors said your heart stopped twice on the operating table." "Sounds about right," Tiho muttered. He relaxed back into the bed. "What happened to the assassins?" "They fled. The conspiracy is exposed. The Loyalists control the fleet. When we reach Ithara, I will address the council and present the evidence." Tiho nodded slowly. "Good," he said. "Then my mission is complete." Valera felt a strange sadness at his words. His mission, of course. He was a soldier. He had been sent to deliver a message, and that message had led to all of this. When it was over, he would return to his people. She would never see him again. "Yes," she said quietly, "I suppose it is." They did not speak again until they reached Ithara. The Itheran homeworld was beautiful beyond words. It was a planet of crystal spires and floating cities, of gardens that stretched for thousands of miles and oceans that glowed with inner light. The capital city rose from the ground like a dream made solid. Towers of silver and gold reached toward the sky, connected by bridges of pure energy. Velira stood before the High Council in the Grand Chamber. It was the largest room in the capital, designed to hold thousands of observers. Today, it was full. Every council member, every noble, every citizen who could fit inside had come to hear the princess speak. She told them everything: the assassination attempt, the conspiracy, the plan to blame humanity and start a war of extermination. She presented the evidence that Minji had gathered. She showed them the faces of the traitors who had tried to destroy peace between worlds. The conspirators were arrested. Some tried to flee, others tried to fight, but the loyalists were stronger. One by one, the traitors were taken away in chains. They would face justice for their crimes. When it was over, Velira spoke again, but this time her voice was different, softer, more personal. "I have one more thing to say," she announced. "I want to tell you about a human." The chamber went quiet. Itharans did not usually speak of humans. They were considered too primitive, too unimportant to be worthy of attention. "His name is Tiho Park," Velira continued. "He is a lieutenant in the Earth Fleet, a soldier of no particular rank or importance. When the assassins came for me, he could have turned away. He could have saved himself. No one would have blamed him." She paused, looking across the sea of faces. "But he did not turn away. He broke into my ship using technology that our engineers said was impossible. He fought through enemies that should have killed him 100 times. He took wounds that should have stopped him, and he kept fighting. He flew through an asteroid field that has killed every pilot who ever attempted it. And when he had nothing left, when his body was failing and death was certain, he stood between me and the assassins one last time." Her voice grew stronger. "We have looked down on humanity for 50 years. We called them primitive, weak, unworthy of our attention. But I have seen something in this human that I have not seen in a long time among our own people. I have seen courage without reward, sacrifice without expectation, kindness without transaction." She looked directly at the oldest members of the council, the ones who had watched humanity's rise with suspicion and fear. "We are not better than them," Velira said. "We have more technology, more power, more history, but somewhere along the way we forgot what made us great. We forgot how to struggle, how to hope, how to be brave when bravery brings nothing but pain." She raised her hand toward the chamber doors. "Bring him in." The doors opened. Tiho walked slowly into the chamber, supported by 2 medical attendants. He was still weak, still recovering, but he walked on his own feet, and when he looked up at the thousands of Itharans staring down at him, he did not flinch. "Lieutenant Park of Earth," Velira announced, "I am naming you a hero of the Syndicate. You will receive full citizenship rights, full protection under our laws, and the eternal gratitude of my people." Tiho blinked in surprise. He had not expected this. He had expected to be sent home quietly, maybe with a thank you note. "Your Highness," he said, "I appreciate the honor, but I am no hero. I just did my job." Velira smiled. It was an expression that her people rarely showed, but she showed it now. "And that, Lieutenant Park, is precisely why your kind terrifies us." The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, someone began to applaud. Then another. Then another. Within seconds, the entire grand chamber was filled with the sound of thousands of hands clapping together. It was not a human custom. The Itharans had learned it from Earth broadcasts, but somehow it felt right. After the ceremony, Velira found Tiho on a balcony overlooking the capital. The sun was setting, painting the crystal towers in shades of gold and orange. "The Council has agreed to a formal alliance with Earth," she said. "Full partnership, shared technology, mutual defense. Your people will have a seat at the table of galactic powers." Tiho nodded slowly. "That is good," he said. "Earth needs allies. We are still so young compared to everyone else." Velira stood beside him, watching the sunset. I have been thinking, she said, about what you told me. How humans choose who they want to be every day. How you can be cruel or kind and the choice is always yours. What about it? I want to learn, Valera said. I want to understand your people, not from reports or broadcasts but from experience. I want to know why you do the things you do, why you risk so much for strangers, why you never give up. She turned to face him. Perhaps you could teach me, she said, personally. Tiho looked at her for a long moment. The princess of an alien empire, beautiful and powerful and more than a little frightening, was asking him to stay. He thought about Earth, about his duties, about everything he was supposed to do. Then he smiled. I would like that, Your Highness. Valera extended her hand in the human custom. She had learned it from the broadcasts too. Tiho took it. Her skin was cool and smooth like polished stone. His was warm and rough, scarred from years of fighting. They were so different. Two species from opposite ends of the galaxy, shaped by forces they could not control. But in that moment, standing together under an alien sky, they found common ground. Call me Valera, the princess said. Call me Tiho, the soldier replied. Outside, the stars began to appear, distant suns burning in the endless darkness. Each one held worlds, each world held stories, and somewhere out there the story of humanity was just beginning. They had come so far in such a short time, from a small planet orbiting an ordinary star to the halls of alien empires. They had been underestimated, dismissed, overlooked, but they had survived. They had grown, and they had shown the galaxy what it meant to be human. Valera looked at Tiho. He was already staring out at the stars, his expression unreadable. What are you thinking? She asked. I am thinking, he said slowly, that this is just the beginning. Humans and Itharans working together, sharing knowledge, learning from each other. If we can do this, maybe other species can too. Maybe the galaxy does not have to be divided into strong and weak, advanced and primitive. He looked at her. Maybe we can build something better. Valera considered his words. It was an idealistic vision. Naive, perhaps. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of old hatreds and new threats. But looking at the human beside her, the man who had done the impossible simply because someone needed help, she found herself believing. Maybe we can, she agreed. They stood together in the fading light, watching the stars come out one by one. Two people from different worlds, bound by circumstance and something more. The alliance between Earth and Ithara would change the galaxy forever, but that is a story for another time. For now, there was peace, there was hope, and there was the beginning of something that neither species had a name for yet. But humans, Tiho thought, would probably call it friendship. And that, perhaps, was the most human thing of all.